Hello everyone, I'm Tony Marfione and welcome to Blade and Board. On our previous edition, we had a tour of the New York Butcher Shoppe, and today I have Bryan Ahearn. He's going to go ahead and cook for us today. Bryan, what are you cooking for us?
Well, today I'm going to be doing a flank steak pinwheels, which is something kind of fun for me. Actually, when my wife and I were first dating, that's one of the first meals I made for her, or a version of it.
Right.
Without even knowing what her food preferences were at the moment, I went ahead and started, experimenting with flank steak pinwheels, and I'd love to show it for you today if you'd like.
All right, that's going to be awesome. So definitely stay tuned. Bryan's going to get cooking here, and the kitchen's going to get hot.
First, we're going to start with the flank steak, obviously, and it should come like this from the butcher, pretty well cleaned up. You shouldn't have to do too much for it, but this is one of my favorite steaks and perfect for this because it has a really nice beefy flavor. It's very lean, so you don't get a lot of fat that you have to chew through because you want to have a nice, pleasant eating experience for your guests. So what we can do is take our boning knife, and we can do a little bit of cleaning if we want. Just take a little bit of off the top. You will notice that there is some kind of fat and stuff like that in here, and a little bit of silver skin. You can clean some of that, but most of this is going to render down anyways. So, man, whoever actually trimmed this the first time did a pretty good job. Oh, that's me, sorry. All right, so what we're going to do is actually what's called butterflying the flank steak. So we're going to try and cut it straight down the middle and then open it up like a book. So obviously you got to be very careful with that. You want a very sharp knife. Luckily these knives are fantastically sharp. Position it somewhere that's close to you and comfortable. And you're going to start from this end and just start slicing, trying to keep that about ½ an inch off from the cutting board. And obviously keep watching your hand because if your blade goes up, it'll go into your hand. So just be very cautious with that. And work your way around. If you're wondering how you're doing, you can lift it back and see. Looking good so far. Keep going. Reposition. And it's okay. If you were to cut through either side, it doesn't really matter. This is all going to be rolled up tight, and it can easily hide any mistakes that you might make. Because I know I make a few quite often. Man, I might get this on the first shot. Looking good. You're gonna want to stop a little bit kind of before you get to the end, because this is a lot thinner right here because of what you had to remove or the butcher removed before. So you don't want to go all the way to the end. Maybe about up to here works well for me. And so then we can actually flip this over and we have a nice looking flank steak right there. All right, so as you see, we have covered this in plastic wrap to protect Tony's kitchen. And so what we're gonna do now is actually use our meat mallet here to shape it a little bit more into a more symmetrical rectangle. And then what that's gonna do is give you more yield, some more steaks that are evenly cut and whatnot. So I like to use the flat side, not necessarily the tenderizing side, and that's going to shape it. So working my way around. And this has the added benefit of tenderizing it a little bit because flank is a tougher steak, but the tougher steaks actually have a lot more beefy flavor, but this will make it a little bit more tender. And while doing that, if you get a hole or something in the middle, that's not the end of the world. Again, you're going to be rolling it up and all of that will disappear. And there we have it. So we can take this off now. And we've managed to actually increase our surface area, which is going to give us more room to put filling in and give us more steaks, for our guests. Then what I like to do next is come in with a nice layer of provolone. So provolone like complements the meat, adds a little bit of that creamy, cheesy, you know, and then a little bit of that provolone tang to it too. So a little provolone that we slice fresh in the shop. What I like to do is leave a little bit overhanging because there will be some trimming at the end. There will be a little bit of loss, but you can actually use that stuff to make some flank steak tacos and stuff later on. So we'll cover this, leave a little bit, just a little bit overhanging. You can also use other cheeses too. You know, I've actually made a different kind of flank steak pinwheels. I did a Philly cheesesteak pinwheel once, which was nice, and that had peppers and onions in it, and provolone as well. So it's definitely a recipe you can get creative with and try a few different kinds. So now that I got that layer of provolone, I'm gonna come in with some of our prosciutto that just thinly sliced. The prosciutto adds a little bit of fat to an otherwise already lean cut of meat, which is nice. It also adds a whole lot of flavor and some saltiness. So, you know, you don't see me adding a ton of salt to it, you know, like pre-salting it. I'll probably salt the outside a little bit, but this really does add a lot. So we'll spread it out, get nice even coverage, because you're gonna be cutting into this later and you want each pinwheel to have, like, you know, equal amounts of everything. So spread this out. So now I got the prosciutto. Next I like to follow up with some baby spinach, fresh. You can also lightly saute it if you'd like too. I feel like the spinach adds some moisture to this, a little bit of freshness. So I like to put a decent amount on. I find that if you go to a grocery store and get a pinwheel, it's like 70% spinach. You know, I like to have more of a balance between the different ingredients in this dish. You know, and people want some steak. They don't want, I mean, you might have salad on the side. They don't need to be eating it. It's all salad. So here we go. We got a decent amount of spinach there. Set this aside. Next, we're gonna follow up with some fire roasted tomatoes. And that's gonna add definitely a little bit of like tang, a little bit of an Italian vibe to it. These are in olive oil, you know, so you wanna you don't wanna drain all that olive oil out, but the more that's still left in there, the more messy this process is gonna be. So I like to give it a little bit of squeeze first. I find the tomatoes also add a little bit of sweetness to this, which kind of balances out the prosciutto and the saltiness of that. So what I do here is just kind of sprinkle it out evenly. I don't necessarily go all the way to the end with this because as you roll, it will be kind of moving forward a little bit, and you know, that just makes it a little bit nicer to tie up at the end. So we got that done. If you're feeling so bold, and if you and your guests like a little bit of garlic, I like to add just a little bit of sprinkle of that. If you wanted to, you could also add some fresh basil, which is really nice. You could add the basil in, or you could even just use it as a garnish later. All right, so here I'm going to transition my cutting board just to get a little bit better into a rolling position, because I'm going to be rolling from this end to this end. When you roll, like one side of that flank steak could be like a little bit smaller or might have a hole in it. So we're going to start with that end and then go towards the wider end. It's good to have some butcher twine ready. You can probably just go down to your butcher and ask for a bunch and they'll just give it to you, or you can find it on Amazon. So I'll start from this end. I'm gonna pull a little bit of tension towards me I'm gonna roll this as tight as I can and kind of pull towards me at the same time. And that's gonna give you a nice tight roll. You get to that middle part, let's tuck that in. You can pull it towards you. There we got a nice log. So if I had thought ahead, I probably would have cut some of this. If you're nice, you can go over and ask your wife to come on over, or your partner. Cut a little bit of that. Sometimes it's nice to get two hands on it, but I don't think we're going to need that right now. So we can slide this way in. And there's a few knots you can use. You can just pull it tight and do an overhand if that's all you know. If you want to get fun with it, you can Google how to do a butcher knot. This first one, I like to just do an overhand just to secure everything in place. And there we go. Then I can get a little bit fancier with my other knots. My preferred knot is something called the trucker's hitch. So, long time before ratchet straps were invented, this is the knot that truckers would use to tie down loads on their trucks. So what I do here, I do a nice 1, 2. I pull the thread through, and now I have a little loop I can pull tension on. And then you can just finish with another overhand on top of that. And so I'll cut that off. Man, that's a sharp knife. I love that. Thank you, Tony. And so now here, I'm gonna tie every 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. You can easily get away with doing it 1 every inch or more. Like when I'm selling this at my store, I like each steak, each pinwheel to have 2 ties around it. I find that it holds up better if you want to cook it on a grill, or if you want to throw it in the oven. It's just going to really kind of maintain that shape all the way from the cooking to your guest plate. So come in here. It can be a little tedious. It takes a minute, but as you do it, you're just going to see how beautiful it becomes. What's really nice about that knot, you can kind of control the tension very well. And if you can, a little bonus points, if you can make sure all the knots are lined up on one side. And then when I'm tying these, I kind of want to go as close to the end as possible. You will cut off probably the last one. Make a little pile of your stuff. So here I'm getting closer to the end. Here I always put on one more than I think I really want. I'm gonna do one more just for fun. It's looking pretty good. Kind of always like to clean as I go. I'm not much of a fan of a mess. And we're gonna rotate this back towards me to a comfortable cutting position. Now we have our awesome pinwheel log. Now, I haven't done it yet, but I'd really like to. I was just thinking about this last night about maybe just popping this in the oven as a roast. Maybe I like, the 325, 300 until you get to the middle to about 125, let it rest, and come up to about 133, so it's medium rare. You could probably do that. Again, I haven't tried it yet, so you're on your own if you want to. So what I'm gonna do here is actually square up the edges. Again, there is that little bit of a waste, but it doesn't have to be a waste. In fact, when I make this at the store, everyone's fighting for this. It's just like saturated and roasted tomato and olive oil and provolone, and my guys will take this home and throw it in, or I'll take it home and throw it in a pan and just eat it as is. We don't like to waste anything. Come around to this side. It's okay if you cut through that last bit of butcher twine. Look, that one almost came out pretty nice itself. And then as you spin it around, you have pretty gorgeous looking flank steak pinwheel, just like that. So I like it nice and tight like that. You can see you got many different, you know, it circles around several times. If you find it at a store, you're probably gonna have like only 2 or 3 turns in it at max. I'm gonna take my larger Microtech butcher knife here, and I'm generally going for maybe about 1.25 inches, maybe a little over. And again, it's okay if you cut through one of those ties right there. Something about that. And there we go. Okay, that one was cut. That's fine. We'll set that aside. You don't want to put that back into that pile. We'll do another one here. Cut this one. Well, maybe we'll make 2 smaller ones for the kids. You don't want to leave them out. There we go. That's beautiful. So now that we've made our pinwheels, now comes the hard part, and that's cooking them. There are several different ways you can go about this. Yeah, I love doing it on the grill, the charcoal grill at home. You can also do it on the pan. You can do it on the pan and then put it in the oven. So you definitely have at least 3 different options to go with. You know, there is cheese involved, you know, so there is a little bit of cleanup involved, you know, whether you do it on a grill or the pan, just be ready for that. There are some ways you can do it that minimizes the, you know, the cleanup. So you can preheat your cast iron or your stainless steel pan, let it come up to temp. And by doing that, that allows the pan to heat evenly, and that can prevent burning in itself a little bit. You can go a little bit lower and slower on that, and what that's going to do is when that cheese drips out of the pinwheel, you can actually fry it a little bit, especially if you use a lot of butter or a lot of oil when you're doing that. I think today that's the method I'm going to go with. I got this preheating. I'm going to add some butter, probably a little bit more than I normally would because we do have that cheese. Again, I prefer an unsalted butter, so that way I can add salt to it myself. We also have that prosciutto in there, you know, which will add a lot of salt to it as well. We can move that around, make sure we get the pan coating very well. In fact, I think I might have added a little bit too much butter. Well, that's all right, because I think I'd like to use that for some homemade garlic bread that we can do with some French baguettes if we'd like. But today we might just stick with the pinwheels. So that looks nice and hot, but not too hot where it should burn. So then I'll come in, pop these guys right there. A little bit of a sizzle is good. That's beautiful. I think we might be able to squeeze a 4th one in there. Oh, it's moving around quite well. There we go. Then we're going to give it a second, let that cheese fry. And I'm gonna flip them, we'll get the other side nice and browned. Then we can temp them, see, you know, where we're at. We're shooting for about 128, 129, you know, so we can like get it up to medium rare. We'll let it set, and as it sets, it'll continue to cook. So we'll just see how this goes for a second. We get there, we get a little bit of brown in there. I think I'd like a little bit more. We might leave these 3 where they are. It's looking good. I didn't stick too much to the pan, but you can tell there's going to be a little bit there. You're going to maybe have to hit the steel wool too, but it's looking good. I do have the oven preheated in case like that's something I want to do, like I'll temp it. So we can Actually take a quick look to see what it's doing right now. You know, we sell these little dudes at the store. This is what we use. We do prime rib every Friday. People can order and come to pick up. Now that's not doing too bad. That's doing really well right now. That's right around 89 degrees. And you want to hit it in a few places. You don't want to be poking a lot of holes unnecessarily into your pinwheel, but I'm shooting for the meat mostly. That's what I'm like most interested in. I'll hit the center, I'll hit the outside just so I get a broader perspective on what's going on here. It's looking good so far. We're towards the center on this one. A little more towards the center. We're hovering around actually 80, maybe 86. I'm gonna check these ones out. Oh, that one's coming along nicely. That's the winner. So at this point, what I might do is I like where the temperature is at, but it's also getting hot. We got some good browning here. I think we're gonna get some good stuff on the outside of those ones. But I'm actually gonna slide it into the oven, I think, and give it maybe about 10 minutes there, which should get our temperature up. So I might loosen this up just a wee bit. They're sliding around pretty nice right now, which is good. Really like that. Well, all that fat in the pan really helps. So now we can slide it into the oven for a minute. Could be about, I'd say about 10 to 15 minutes. Really, it's not so much about the time, it's more about the internal temperature that I'm shooting for. So now we're gonna check on our flank steak pinwheels, see how they're doing. This is perfect. I kind of really like where it's at right now. And I got 126 right here in the middle of this one. So this is pretty nice. It's hovering around, kind of going around 126, 125 as I move that around inside of it. So I think giving that a nice 10 minutes to cool off a little bit, but also continue, cooking on the inside, which will get us to our medium rare of 133, 135. So we can set that off to the side for now, and we'll revisit in a minute. All right, so now that our flank steaks have come up to temperature, we can go ahead and plate them. If you were serving this for a nice dinner with your friends and you want to elevate it a little bit, you could do a few things. You could add a side. You could do some roasted potatoes, pair well, very nice. Asparagus would go too. Maybe a fresh arugula salad. You can also add a little bit of balsamic glaze to the top from a bottle and just kind of make a nice little fancy design there. So what we'll do next, we'll just take this from here and put it on our plates and get into it and start enjoying them. So now we're ready to get into the fun part and try these flank steaks. Man, I picked my favorite one, and that looks good. I also like a little bit of the fried cheese on this one. So we can just kind of cut that string off if we haven't done it already. And then we can bite in and see what we created. Whoa. I don't know if you can see it on this end, but I think we got a little lucky this time around, and it looks like a beautiful medium rare. So I'll take one for the team and try it. It's great. You get the tenderness of the beef. You get that like very strong like beefy flavor. The creaminess of the provolone complements it. You get that tang from the tomato. It's just a really lovely cut of beef. Probably one of my favorite items. It's got a decent amount of saltiness to it. You notice that I didn't add any to it. You definitely could. You could actually add a little bit of sprinkle on the top, which is kind of nice at the end. I'm really finding that the flavors come well together, and a lot of that salt from the prosciutto is really shining through. I hope you all enjoyed it. You know, it's just a little bit of home cooking, something that I like to do. It's not super fancy, but it's elevated enough that you can, you know, impress your guests and enjoy it as well. We have these for sale at our shop at the New York Butcher Shoppe here in Arden. If you're interested in learning more, you know, check out our Facebook page. You know, we update like specials that we get in, like we got new lobster tails in, or Wagyu tenderloin, or something like that. That's where we post it. Please check it out. Come by the store. We'll give you the full tour. And of course, I'd really love to thank Tony for inviting us to his house and letting me come in and kind of maybe mess up his kitchen a little bit, and hopefully not too much. Yeah, man, I just can't say enough about his knives. We use them at the butcher shop. I use the chef knife, the boning knife, the paring knife. I'm using that every day, and not just for a little bit. This is what I use for 8 hours a day, sometimes 12, you know. It's nice to have something that's sturdy, you know, comfortable to use for long hours. It's sharp, and it works well in my home too, at my kitchen. So not just in a professional setting, but at home too. Thank you all for allowing me this time.
Hey everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Blade and Board with Bryan from the New York Butcher Shoppe. Next week, stay tuned in because we're going to go ahead and grill some steaks right here. Cheers.